Hello friends, my name is Sarang and welcome to this Learn Golang in one video. And in this video, I'll be covering all the important concepts of Golang. And before watching this video, you have to download the Go runtime binaries in your machine, and then you can start coding in Golang. Okay, so the prerequisite is to have the Go in your machine, and the Go is an open source language been used widely by so many companies, and it has so many use cases like it's used in web development, command line interfaces, clouds and network services, DevOps, and many more. Okay, so in this video I'll be covering all the important concepts like variable pointers, arrays, slice map, and various types of functions that are there in Go, object oriented programming, and we'll finally create REST APIs using one of the famous Go web framework, that is gin-gonic. Okay, so all these topics that I'm going to cover in this video are very important and will be used once you start creating projects in Golang. So without wasting any time, let's get started. And yeah, if you like my content, please share, subscribe, and like my videos. Okay, so once you download the Golang runtime binaries, what you need to do is you just have to create one folder. So I've created one folder in with the name Go in one video. Okay, just create one file, main file in it. Okay, so I'll create a file with the name main, and give the package name as main, and create a function main like this. Okay, so every language has an entry point that is a main function. So in this Golang, if you want to make a main function as the entry point of your program, make sure this function main, okay, uh, is under a main package. Okay, the package main and the function together makes an entry point of the program. Okay, make sure both are main package as well as the function. Okay, so if I write something like ABC, it's no longer an entry point of the program, and you can see that the Go has grayed out this main function. But once I create or write main in the package, and function main will get highlighted, that means it's a entry point of a program. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to learn is how to create a variable. So this is how you can declare a variable of type int in Go. So var a int. So var is a keyword. Okay, a is your variable name and int is the type. Okay, so you can assign a value like this to variable a of type int. Okay, and if you want to so if you it's just giving a red line because it says it's unused, so just write like this. So the fmt package has a function called println. Okay, so it will just print the result or the value of a in the console. So I'll quickly run and show you. So it has printed the value 12. Okay, so fmt is one of the package, or you can say a library within a Go. It comes with when you download Golang. Okay, so it has a function println, not only println, it has so many inbuilt functions that can be used for printing the results onto the console. Okay, so whenever you want to import anything or want to use something which is already been written, okay, so you need to mention the main name of the package and then dot, and then write the function that you want to use from that package. Okay, so here I have created a variable. Okay, I have first declared the variable and then I have initialized a value to it. If you want to do this both the operation in a same line, you just have to write like this. So here what I have done is I have ignored the type. Here I have written the type. Okay, I have ignored the type over here. So Golang will take care of the type that we're gonna give it to the b variable. So we don't have to mention the type over here. So this is like declaring and initializing on the same line. So it also have a shorthand version of it. So this is a shorthand syntax. Okay, this is a shorthand initialization where you don't even have to write var, you just have to write colon and equal to equal, then you have to give the value. So the Go will understand or the Go will figure it out what the type it's going to be. Okay, so the difference between this and this is the difference between shorthand initialization and using a var is this var can be used as a global variable. So if I just cut and paste it over here, okay, it is now global, so it is not scoped within main function. Now it is global, it can be used in any functions or any any functions in this file. But this C is using a shorthand initialization way of declaring a function. So this cannot be used as a global variable, it can be used within a function only, so it is function scope. Okay, so let me do it like this. So this syntax is function scope. You can only declare this within a function, you cannot declare outside of the functions. For an example, if I write it like this, so it will give an error saying that is unexpected. That means we cannot use this kind of syntax outside of any function, or it cannot be used as a global variable. Okay, so the var can be used as a global variable, but the shorthand syntax will not be used as a global variable. Okay, so this kind of initialization or syntax can only be done within the main function. Okay, so hope you got an idea about this variable, how to declare. And there are so many types in Golang. So there are int 8, int 32, and 64, then float 32, float 64. So you can use any type you want based on your use case. So it has bool, it has string. Okay, so it has all the common data types that you see in the another language as well. Okay, so if you want to create a string, so I'll create like this. I'll just write sarang. So you have created a string over here. I'll just write s, and I will remove this, not required. Okay, I'll just print the result over here on the console. So it has given me sarang. Okay, so this is how you can work with the different data types in Go. So you can also write true here, so it becomes a boolean. Okay, and you can also change the value anytime you want in this variable. Okay, so hope you understood about the variable. Okay, now let's get into the next topic, that is pointers. So pointer you might have heard about in the low level languages like C, C++. Okay, so pointers are also present in Golang. So you might have known now you have to create a variable in this way. Okay, so if you print the address, how you can print the address of A is writing ampersand A, and println is one of the built-in function which will print the result in a console. But now I'm printing the address of A. Okay, so I just want to know what is the address of variable A. So this is the address of variable A, and the value of A is 12. This is the address of A, and this is the value of A. Okay, whereas the pointer will, the pointer will just save the address of another variable as a value. So I will just write it down. So this is pointer, so I will write var p. Okay, you can give any name you want. I have given var p, and then this is star, and then this is a type int. So when you write a star before any type, it becomes a pointer. Okay, so it can only save the address. So now I cannot assign a to p, since int c p is also int, a is also int, but now it has a star before int. That means it can save only the address of a. Okay, so if I print out the value of p, okay, it will have the address of a. So let me just print that in the console. So as you can see, this is the address of a and the value of a, but the pointer is also having the value as the address of a. Okay, so the pointer save the address of another variable. Okay, to introduce a concept like a call by reference. Okay, so for an example, so if you pass a variable, normal variable, to another function, it will be a call by value method. Okay, and if you're using a pointer, it's gonna be a call by reference way. So I'm gonna just write a function saying main2. So we will see that if I accept a variable a of type int and I'm changing the value to, let's say, 17. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call main2 and I'm pass a. Okay, and now I'm gonna print a. Now what is the expected behavior over here is, since it's a call by value, when you're passing a into a main2 function, this value 12 will be copied to this particular parameter. Okay, so this the a that you have inside the main will have a different address, and the a that you have in a main2 function will have a different address. The content of this a in a main will be copied to content of this a which is present in a main2. So if you want to see the result, you can print the address of a over here and you can see. So here I will just print the address. I will just write address of a in main. Okay, and here I'm gonna write address of a in main2. Okay, both will have a different address, so let me print this out. So address of a in main is ending with 58 and address of a in main2 is 50. So this is a call by value. That means the value of a in main is getting copied to the value of a in the main2. Okay, that's why it is having a different address. Plus whatever changes that you do to this particular variable a will not be reflected to the a variable that is present in a main function. That's why when I printed the result of a, it is still giving 12, but it should give 17 as I've changed the value, but it will not give 17 because now this a and this a are both different. They both have a different addresses. So in this way, the results are not common. They are different results. Now if you want to do the call by reference, then what you have to do is you just have to write asterisk or star before the type. Okay, and here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass this particular pointer over here. Okay, pointer of type int only it will accept, since I have written the type int. So, and the p is also of type int. Now this p is saving the address of a. Okay, now I'm passing the address. That means the address will be saved. Okay, it will not be copied. So for an example, let me show you the result over here. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing the address. Okay, the p has an address of a. Okay, I'm passing it over here, and I want to, using a pointer, if I want to change the value of a, then I have to write this asterisk, which is a dereference operator. Okay, now if I just print the address, so for an example I will just write p over here and I will just write a over here. Okay, now this both will have same value. So for an example, let me just, okay, this is no longer valid, so let me remove this. Okay, so see, I have printed p and I have printed a. They both have the same memory address. That means it's a call by reference. Okay, now since they both are having a same address, so if I print the result now for a, okay, if I print the result of a right now, it will be 17. How it was 17 now? Because I have passed the address of a and I have changed the content of it, so it will be reflected in the original variable also. So a is the original variable. Okay, and I have passed the address of a using pointer. I passed the address of a and have changed the content of a. And if you want to change the content of any variable using pointer, you have to write the dereference operator before it, and then you have to give the new value to it. Okay, and yeah, you can see the result. I have changed that to 17. It has changed the value of a. Okay, so if I change it to 20, it will give me the value of a as 20. So before you can see it was 12, but now I have done pass by reference. I have given the address of a to this particular variable, and I have changed the value. So it has also changed the original variable value. It has been reflected. Okay, so previously it was not getting reflected by call by value, but by call by reference it is getting reflected to the original variable. So this is where you can use pointers are very important concepts in Golang, so you just try to practice and you'll understand that. Okay, so I hope you understand about this. So let's go to the another important topic, that is arrays. Okay, so you might be knowing arrays have a fixed size. So before you start even working with arrays, you need to have uh, a fixed size of that particular array. So how you can declare an array is, so for an example, I'll just write var a, and I will just give two size, or else before, just let's write like this, 2, and I'll just write int. And if I print the content of array a onto console, so it will initialize with two elements of value 0. Since I've written 2, so it has given a memory, and it has two elements in it with the 0 value. Okay, and if you want to change the value of index 1, you can change like this. So if I just print, so now it will be 12 and 0. And if you're trying to change the value of index, which doesn't exist, because see, the compile itself given invalid array index out of bound for element 2 element size. Okay, so this is how you declare an array, and you can also give values to array when you declare. So like this, you can give the initial value as 1 2, so it will print that result onto the console 1 2. Okay, and later point of time you can also change it to whatever value you want, so it will change the content of index 0 to 17. Okay, so these are arrays. Okay, and if you want to iterate array, or if you want to or else let's check what is the length of the array. So this is an inbuilt function len you can use to check the array length. So it should give me 12 here, so it has given me 12. Okay, and if you want to iterate an array, so you can do something like this, starting from 0, I is less than length of a, then I plus plus, and then just take this up. Okay, and remove the len a. Okay, so it's starting from okay, I have to write I here. So it is starting from 0 and going towards the length, and it's printing the each and every element. And the very shorthand way to do is like just write for index element range a. So range is a function which will give you the element and the index at which this element is present. So you can also print both the result like this. So I'll just write here index and element. So it will print both the index and element. So like this, 0 is 17, 1 is 12. So like this it will print. So, and if you don't want index for some reason, you just write underscore, so the Go will ignore the index. Okay, and it will no longer complain. Okay, so it has given both the results. Okay, so hope you understood about the arrays and how to iterate the arrays. So now there is one more important concept, is slices. So okay, so before I conclude this array, let me show you one more thing, that arrays are called by value. Okay, so if I have another function, okay, and this also array of size 2. Okay, and if I change the content of, let's say, 0th index to 12. Okay, now I'll just remove all these things not required. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write main to pass the array. Okay, now I'm gonna print the content of array on the console. So now since the 0th index have the value 1. Okay, now I have passed the array to another function main to. I'm changing the index 0 value to 12. Okay, but it will not reflect to this array because this is a call by value. Okay, the arrays in Go are call by value, or you can say value type. That means this, when you're passing this array into this main to, the entire array will be copied and the new address will be given to this particular a variable. Okay, and the changes that you will make to the a variable will not be reflected to this particular a which is present in a main function. So you can see the result over here. So still the value of a are 1 and 2. It's not 12 because it's a call by value. Arrays in Go are call by value. Okay, and if you want arrays to be called by reference, okay, then you need to understand about slices. Okay, now let's understand about slices are. So the arrays are having a fixed size. Okay, the slices have it's a dynamic array, it doesn't have a fixed size. So I'll just write slice like this. Okay, and I have declared empty slice. Okay, and if you now if I just print the result of s, so this will give me nothing, it's an empty slice. Okay, under the hood the slice will use array only, since it's a dynamic array plus it's a call by reference type array. Okay, so as I said, if you want to use a array in a call by reference way, then you need to use slices. Okay, now let's go into the slice concept. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll just let me keep this. So let's understand about the slice. Okay, so I'll just try to give a value like s12, 0th index to value 12, and I'll just try to print s. So this will give me an error. Why? Because this is a slice of having a dynamic array, but first it should have an array. Okay, here I have just declared an slice, but it doesn't have any underlying array. So if I just try to access the index 0, it will give me an error because there is no array inside this slice. Okay, so index out of range 0 with length 0. Okay, so if you're working with slices, okay, there is a different syntax that you need to use, that is var s is equal to make function, where you have to mention the type of slice that you want to use and give the length of that slice and give the capacity. Okay, so now what I have done over here is, the previously it was giving an error index 0. Okay, because previously we have declared the slice, but we have never given a slice an array. The slice under the hood use array. So first we need to create array, and then upon that we have to create a slice. So now if I try to change the value of 0th index, okay, now it will not give me an error. See, it has given index 0 12, and the second value it has given 0. Why? Because I have given the array length as 2. Okay, so the slice is now pointing to an array which has a length of 2, and I have changed the content of 0th index to 12. So that's what you can see over here. Okay, so now if I want to pass this slice, if I pass this slice, okay, here if to make this array to slices, just remove this. Okay, and just pass s, and I will just change content to 19, and now it is giving me an array. Okay, let's remove this. Okay, now you can see the changes has been reflected to the um, a, just a second, I have printed 1 2. Okay, it has printed 1 2 over here. Now I passed s. Okay, Now the first index has a value 12. Now I have changed the value to 19 and I have printed the s. It has given me the result as 19 and 0. So the changes has been reflected to the slice, because it's a call by reference way of dealing things. Okay, so if you use an array, that is a call by value. If you use an slice, okay, this is how you create a slice. Okay, it's a call by reference way. That means when you're passing the slice to another function and you're making changes to that slice, okay, that changes will be reflected to the original array. Okay, I'll just remove this. Now it will be clear. 19 and 0. If I change this to, let's say, if I change the first index to 20 or 10, it will give me the result here as 19 and 12. So for in the case of array it was not getting changed, but in case of slices it was getting changed. Okay, so now I've told you this 2 is a length of an array and this 3 is a capacity of array. Okay, now I would like to also tell you that it's not so see, this is not only a way to give values to an slice. You can also use a append function. Okay, so append function will append the values or new values to slice at the end of the slice. Okay, so the first value is 12. I'm giving the second value as 13. So here you can see 12, 0 and 13. Okay, so let me remove this. Okay, so since I have declared a len 2, so it would, the array would be created inside like this. 12 sorry 0 and 0, and I have assigned a 0th index a value, so it will be like this 12 and 0. And now I have append a new element to the slice, so it will be 12, 0 and 13. The new element will be appended at the end of the slice always. So that's the reason it is giving the result as 12, 0, 13. And this is a dynamic array, as I said, so you can write as many append functions as you want. It will, this array will keep on growing. It since it has no constraint of size like an array. Okay, the capacity means what would happen under the hood is, just a second. So I hope you understood up to here. Okay, now I have given a capacity 3. So what would happen is, originally this array would have a slice or would have a length of 3. Okay, once you cross elements, number of elements beyond your capacity, the slice, what the slice will do is, let's say the capacity was only 3 and you have given 3 element. So under the hood, when you give another element or add another element to the slice, what would happen is it will create a new array, and first it will copy the previous array values and then append a new value. So this is what the capacity means. If you add elements more than the capacity, then the previous array elements will be copied to a new array, and the new element will be appended to it. As you can see over here, the new just let me remove this. Okay, so let me remove all these things. So that's what, if you go beyond your capacity, it will not give any error, so it will just create a new memory address by first copying all the elements and then appending a new element. Okay, so hope you understood about the slices. The only difference between array and slice are, arrays are call by value or the value types, and the slices are call by reference or the reference type. Okay, so hope you understood up to here. Now let's understand about the map data structure. So in the Go, the map uses a hash table implementation. Okay, so let's see how to declare a map. So if you know the value beforehand, you can declare like this sarang, and you can give values and you can give comma and you can give it like this. And if you don't know the value while you're declaring, so you can write use make function string int, and now you can give a key value to it, like dev problems, and can give it like this, and you can print the result like ma and m. Okay, so this type you'll use when you know the key value before while you're declaring, and this you will use when you don't know the type, and you will dynamically assign the key values, okay, in the runtime. Okay, so these are the maps. So how you can iterate a map is use a for loop, give key value, then use a range function, and then use m, and then just write fmt println, and just print kv in the console. I've used ma, so I'll just remove this line as well, so it will print dev problems and 12 onto the console. Okay, so how you can get values from the mat, but before that I just want to make you understand about the control statements in the Go. So let's say you have the value 12, so this is how you'll write a if inside a Golang. Okay, if statement, if a is less than 0, then you can give like this, a is greater than 0. Okay, if you want to use a formatted way, this, then you can write printf, and you can write like that is a, else if, or you can write first slash else, you can give it a is lesser than 0, this percentage d and a. You can do pretty much like this, and if you want to, you are formatting it, so just write printf, since you are making use of percentage d inside it. So there are so many ways. If you want to write integer, it's percentage d. If you want to print string, it's percentage s. Okay, just try to print in the console the result is, so a is greater than 0, that is 12. So this is how you write if else in Golang. Now let's try to get a value from the map. So let's say if I want to get the value of dev problems. Okay, so you can write like this, give the name of the key that you want to find. Okay, so it will this will give me two results. One is value, another one is found. So I've just written found. You can write anything you want. So basically this will give me true or false. If the value is present, it will give me true. Value is not present, it will give me false. So here you can give a check. So if found, that means if the value is found, then you can write, you can print the value like this. Else you can write not found, something like this. Okay, and since you have written two statement here, if and else, you can write in the same statement like this. So you can write if let me, okay, let me copy this. Okay, like this. Okay, it will give me an error. Okay, if value is found, and if found is true, so you have just written a semicolon. Okay, and you are telling that you will evaluate this expression, and then the found will get value true or false. Then you are writing a semicolon, and then you are evaluating whether this found is true or false. If it's true, then only it will come inside this function, or this curly braces. Else you can write not found inside the println. Okay, let me just try to run. So okay, it is giving me here, so let me just write fmt println in between, so it will print a new line. So it has given me the value, and it has yeah, so you understood about this. So this is how you write if else. And if you want to find a value from the map for a particular key, you can write like this, like if the value, and if it's present, then print the value if the found is true. Okay, so like this is the syntax that you can use. Okay.
Hello friends, my name is Sarang. So today we'll look into the various functions that Golang offers. Okay, so we'll look into the basic functions, receiver functions, and anonymous functions. So under the basic function, we'll understand about init function, then function with parameters, functions with return value, function with multiple return value, function with naming return values, function with variadic parameters, public private functions, pass by value and pass by reference functions, defer keyword. And under receiver function, we'll look value-based receiver function, point-based receiver functions, and under anonymous function, we'll look function as a parameters, return function from function, stateful function, and the generic function. Okay, so this is a practical session, and this video is intended for the beginners. Okay, so let's get started. So what I'm gonna do is first I'm gonna create a main file. Okay, I'm gonna give the package name as main and create the main function. So the main function is a special type of function which gets called automatically by Golang. We don't have to call this main function explicitly. Okay, so the main function becomes the starting point of your program. Okay, so if you want to make the main as a starting point of your program, make sure this main function is under the package main. Okay, if you change the package name to, let's say, one something, the main function is no longer a function which will be called by Go. Okay, it behaves as a normal function only. So make sure you have the main function under the package main. Okay, so the very first function that we're going to look is the init function. So the init function is also a special function. Okay, it should have a name as init. Okay, so it is same as main function. The init function is not accepting any arguments and it is not returning anything. But the only difference between the main and init function is the init function will be called by Golang before the main function. Okay, so in this way, what you can do is you can initialize your global variables in the init function, okay, and then use those global variables in the main function. Okay, so I'm gonna create one global variable. Okay, I'm gonna initialize the global variable in the init function, and in the main function, what I'm gonna do is print the value of variable called name. Okay, so what you can do in a init function is if you want to initialize global variable and also establish a database connection before your function start, you can do in the init function. Okay, so I'm gonna print the value of name variable and it has given me sarang. Okay, and you can also have more than one init function in the same file. Okay, here what I'm gonna do is change the name variables to dev problems. Okay, so this init function will be executed after the first init function, so it will be executed in a order that you define the function. Okay, so now you can see the value would be dev problems in the console. Okay, so that's all about the init function. Now let's look at the second function, that is function with parameters. Okay, so for that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic function directory, and under that I'm going to create a basic function go file. Okay, and I'll create a add function which have two parameters, a of type int, b of type int. Okay, and this add function will print the addition of two numbers. Okay, so make sure you have the func keyword so that Go will know that this is a function. Okay, and write the name of the function and then the round brackets. Inside that you can mention your or write your parameters that you're going to accept. Okay, and then in the body of the function you can write your logic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this add function from the main file. Okay, so for doing that I have to write the package name, that is basic function, and inside the package I have this method add. So I'm gonna call this with two arguments. Okay, and when I execute this file, it's gonna print the addition of two numbers, 1 and 2, which is 3. Okay, so one more thing here is since A and B are of same type, so you can also write like this. Okay, A comma B int. So this both A and B are of type int, so you can write in this way. Okay, so now let's look at the third function, which is function with return value. Okay, so I'll create a new function called subtract. Here I'm gonna take two parameters and return the subtraction of two numbers. Okay, since I have not defined the return type of this function, okay, so I have to write the return type after the round brackets like this. So now the function will work properly with no errors. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm accepting two parameters, returning the subtraction of these two numbers with the return keyword, and also mentioning what type of value will be returned from this subtract function. Okay, if you want to return anything from the function, you also have to mention the type of data that you're gonna return. Okay, so I'm gonna use this function here to call. Okay, I will pass 4 2. Okay, since it's gonna return me some data, so I will store that data in R variable, and now I'm gonna print the R variable to know that what subtract has written. Okay, the answer should be 2 here. Yeah, it's 2. So this is function with return values. Now let's look the function with multiple return value. Okay, so again I'll go to the basic function file. Now I'm gonna write one function called subscribe. Okay, so what do you mean by multiple return value? Here you have only written one data, okay, which is subtraction of two numbers, and you have mentioned that you're gonna return only one data with the type int, but you can also return more than one data from the function. Okay, so if you're returning more than one data, so you have to write that in a round brackets, and also write the types that you're gonna return. So I'm gonna return three string from this function. Okay, so you can return any type you want. Okay, so two string, one int, or you can write three in or float 32, anything you want to return from the function. For now, I'm going to return three string. So I'll write subscribe dev problems channel. Okay, so I have written the comma separated string, okay, from this function. So who is calling the function here will get three values from this function. Okay, so the signature, it accepts no argument, and but it will return uh, three strings. So I will take those strings in three variables in this way. Okay, now I'm gonna print the values of this in this way. Okay, now I'm gonna execute. Each variable here will get a string, and that I'm gonna print in the console. Okay, make sure you are returning three string from here. Here also should be three variables. If you are not interested in the number of or if you're not interested in the return of this function, what the caller can do is it can ignore the last string that is written by the function. Okay, and it can also ignore the second string that is written by the function. You can ignore by writing the underscore here. Okay, so hope this is clear. And now let's go to the next one, which is function with naming return value. So first let's understand why you need a naming return value. So here I will write function divide. I will accept two parameters, and I'm going to return the division result and return error if there is any error. And if b equal to 0, then we are not interested to divide. We will return 0, and also error because we have to let the caller know that we cannot divide anything by 0. Okay, else what we can do is we can divide if the b is not 0, and we'll return no errors because we can divide and we can give a value nil to the error type. Okay, so here the problem here is you are returning or you're writing the return statement multiple times. So this is a small function. If the function is very big, okay, if the logic is very big, then you have to write a return statement multiple times. So in order to avoid that, what you can do is you can give a name to your return value. Okay, and initialize them within the function, so it will take the value that you will give them. Okay, so I'll write answer is equal to a slash b, and here since I have given value to my return types, okay, I can return from the function. That means I want to stop executing the function. Okay, so here you're writing the return keyword only one time. So that's the advantage of naming the return value. Okay, name the return value, give them a value, and once you have given the right value, just write one time return keyword. Okay, so here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call the divide function with two parameters. Okay, and take the result or error if there is any. Here what I'm gonna do is write a condition. If error has a value, that means it is not a null, then I'm gonna print the error message. Else what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna print the division result. Okay, and I will print it by formatting it correctly. Answer. Okay, so now I'll get the answer because b is not 0, so I will not get errors. It will give me answer as 2 of type float. Okay, and then if I pass 0, then it should give me an error saying that cannot divide by 0. So hope you understood about this naming return value. It is very flexible and you can avoid writing multiple return statements. Okay, so now let's look into the function with variadic parameters. So if you have so many parameters, it's a good practice to uh, have the variadic parameters. Okay, so I will tell you why you need this. So let's say you have 10 parameters. So for each parameters you have to define a variable in the round brackets. So in order to avoid that, just write these three dots, and you can accept any number of parameters in the function. Okay, so I will pass that once I write the logic of it. So I'll write a total variable, and I'm gonna iterate the numbers. So here you might have a question that how come the number is iterable, right? So here I'm iterating the number. I have not defined that it is an array or slice. But here, when you write a three dot, this number becomes a float 32 slice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna print the type as well to show you. I will use reflect package dot type of number. So it will give me that the number is of type float 32 slice. That's why you're able to iterate it. Okay. So in the caller, what you can do is in the caller side, you can pass any number of parameters like this. Okay. So here you are avoiding writing so many variables or parameters. You're only writing one um, parameter. Okay. And yeah, you will getting the result. So I will print the sum result. Okay. So it is giving me an error cannot use float 32 of type string. Just a second. Oh, I have already defined s, so let me define sum again here. Okay, so now I'm going to execute the function. It should give me the sum of these numbers. Okay, I have to format it, so let me do this way. Okay, sum. So it will give me the formatted result. Okay, so hope you understood about the variadic parameters. Now next is public and private functions. So here in the basic function, all functions are public. Okay, all the functions that you have written here all are public because the first character of the function name is capital. Okay, if the first letter is capital, that means these functions are public and it is visible to other packages. That's why from the main you were able to call the add function, subtract function because they are all are public function. Okay, and if you want to make a private function, so just write the first letter as small case in a smaller case. So this now add function is not visible to other packages, so it will give us the error saying unresolved reference add. Okay, so this is about the public and private function. Now let's look into the pass by value function. So the pass by value concept, you might be aware about that, that you are passing the copy of the, or you are creating a copy of that particular value. So let me write pass by value. So here you have one parameter and you're changing the value of it. Okay, so here the caller will not get the updated value that you have updated in this function because it has passed a value here and it has created a copy of the value that you have passed and it has updated, and the caller will not get the updated value. So I will demonstrate this. Let me write var a equal to, let's say, 5, and I will write pass by value as a, or and I'm gonna print the a result here. So the answer should be 5 because here you have done the pass by value, so the value will be passed. Okay, and that value, if you're updating it, it will not be reflected to the variable that you have defined here because you're passing the value, not the reference. Okay, let's look the reference next. So yeah, so let's run the function. Okay, I have not okay, just a second. Where is 5? Should print 5 here. Divide result. Okay, this should be some result, and print ln. Why is it not printing the a? Oh, okay. So it has printed at the end because it's a printf. Okay, so I'll write fmt dot empty println, so it will print the 5 below. Okay, so this is pass by value. So now let's write a pass by reference function. So here you have to pass the address of the variable, because here this function is accepting a pointer. Now if you are passed the reference, then the updated value would be reflected to the value that passed by the caller. Okay, here you have a pointer. That means you have to send the address of that variable. So let me do that first quickly. So a is equal to, let's say, let me use the same thing, basic function dot pass by reference. Now I have to pass the address. So I'll write ampersand a. Okay, now if I print the value of a here, it should be 10, because your the pointer is updating the value, and it will be reflected to the value that is given by the caller. So that's the pass by reference. Okay, and this is a dereference symbol. So if you want to update the value of any primitive types, you have to use this dereference symbol here. Okay, so now let's look at the differ keyword. So the differ keyword is a special type of keyword. So I will show you this differ function, something like this. And if you want to execute anything, hang on. So I will write subscribe, write subscribers, and I will do a print hello all subscribers. Okay, so what will happen is this particular print function will be executed after the differ function is completed executing it. So this will be executed after the print function has been executing. Okay, so that means if you have a differ keyword and the function, then the particular function will be only executed when the entire function is completed. So this function print will be executed at the end. Okay, so I will show you the function. So differ, so first it will be hello all, then subscribers. So hello all subscribers. Okay, like this. And let's say if you have multiple, then it will be in a reverse order. So just give me a minute. Hello all subscribers. Okay, so first the differ function will be completed, will be registering two differs into a stack. Okay, and you know stack is last in first out. Okay, so the last differ function will be executing first, and then this function will be executed. Okay, so it will be like this. So once the differ function is completed executing it, so what this differ function is doing is printing hello, and after that it will execute this one, and then later on this one. So it behaves as a stack. Okay, so I'm gonna again start executing it, hello all subscribers. So in this way you can use differ keyword, okay, if you want to execute anything at the end of the function. And mostly you use this for closing the database connection and all these things in a real world application. Okay, so I think we have looked all the basic functions. Now let's look into the receiver functions. Okay, now let's look into the receiver functions. Okay, so I have created a new package, and here the receiver functions are specific to the struct. So before writing the receiver function, you have to create one struct. So here I'm creating a person struct, which is having two variables, name, age. Okay, now I'll create a receiver function which is specific to the person struct, and here I will update the name of the person. So I will get one name in the argument, and I will update the name of the uh, person here by using the set name function. So the receiver functions looks little different here. You have to give the function name. Before that, you have to in the round bracket you have to mention for which struct you are creating this receiver function. Okay, so let me create an object or instance of this particular person struct. So receiver for person, and fm I'll read format and println person. Here what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the person object to set the name. Okay, I will get name as Sarang. Okay, so I'm setting the name as Sarang. So before before setting the name, okay, I have created an empty struct with no default values, okay, of name and age variable. I have created an empty struct here, and then I'm updating the struct field name with the name called Sarang, and here the person that I've created here should have the name as Sarang. So let's look whether that name has been updated or not using the receiver function called set name. So here the name has not been updated. So let me do println. Okay, so here I'll execute the function. Okay, so it is giving me again the empty struct with the default value of age as 0. Okay, it should have set the name to the provided name, but it has not. Okay, so let's look why it has not updated the name to the name that we have given in the parameters. So if you look this receiver function, this is a value based receiver function. That means when you're calling the set name using the object person, okay, in this receiver function, you are not passing the actual person address into the receiver function. Your function will create the copy of function, and that copy will have the uh, person name as the one that you have updated. Okay, so if you want, let's say I will print the address of person object. So I will just write p here and write ampersand to print the address. Okay, in receiver function I'll write in a receiver function. Okay, I'll print the address, and here also I will print the address to show you that what actually is getting passed. Okay, so here I will write person. I'm printing the address of this person object, and also printing the address of this particular person object. So what will happen is the address of both the objects will be different. So this object will be a copy of the one that you have mentioned here, and that will have a different address. That's why it is not updating the actual person object, it is updating the copy object. Okay, so if you want, I can show you the address. That's gonna be a different one. See the object, the address is different, and in the receiver function, the address is different. So if you want to update any of the variable of a particular struct, you have to pass a pointer based, you have to do a pointer based receiver function. Okay, so here I will try to update the age. So I'll pass age here of type int age here. Okay, so now I'm gonna update the age of point using a pointer based receiver function, so that will be reflected. in the actual object. So yeah, you can see 20. That one only it has given, which I passed here. Okay, now if you look at the address of both the object, it is same. So I don't have to write ampersand because it's a pointer. I will execute it again. Here you see the address is same. That's why I'm able to see the changes in this particular person object. Okay, here it is not creating a copy. In this case it was creating a copy because it was a value based receiver function. Here it is a pointer base. That's the reason it is not creating a copy. It is it is receiving the actual object and updating that object. Okay, hope you understood about the receiver function, and let's look into the anonymous function later. Okay, so let's look into the anonymous function. So let me create a anonymous function first. So it is a function with no name. So here I'm going to just write a func keyword and with no argument. You can also pass the argument if you want. So I will just pass, let's say, name string. Okay, and I'm gonna print the name that was provided, and here I'm gonna directly call the function. Okay, so here you can see I've not given any name to the function, whereas if you can see the basic function here, I've given the name to the function, and using the same name I am calling the function. Okay, but here I'm not given any name. I've just written the logic when this function will be executed. So here, since this function accept argument, so I have provided an argument like this, and this function will be invoked automatically. So let me show you. So it has printed the name Sarang because I have provided that. Or else what you can do is, if you want to use this function later on, okay, so you can give this function to this variable, and this variable can be treated as a function here. So you're passing the function as a value here to this func variable, and this fun variable will be used as a function here. Okay, and likewise you can call this function. Okay, so now let's look into the function list, and let's start implementing the function as parameters. So if you want to accept the function as a parameter, so how you can do that? I will create a function calculate which will accept two parameters of type int, and then a function which will have two int type, and then this function will return a int data. So here you're not implementing, you're just defining the signature, or just writing the signature that you want the calculate function to have two int parameters and one parameter of type function which will have two arguments and return the data of type int. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the AB data. See, since C is a function, right? So you can write like this, and then when you write like this, the function that you provide in the parameter will be executed, and it will give us one int data in return. So I'm directly printing it. So if you don't want to print like this, first let's get the data and then print it like this. Okay, so what will happen on the caller side is I will quickly write anonymous function calculate. I will write 1 2, and here using the anonymous function, so I'll write one anonymous function which will not have any name. Okay, so here it will have, let's say, a int, a b int, and it will return me int. So what will happen is, just a second, I will write the logic first. Okay, then what I've done here is I have passed a as a one value, b as a two value, and then I have implemented an anonymous function which is of same signature that I have here to int as a parameter and return as a int. Okay, so here also it is having two parameters and returning a data of type int. Okay, and here you're writing a logic of the function. When this function will be executed, it will return the sum of these two numbers. Okay, and here you're passing this anonymous function to this C variable, and then you are calling this particular function with these two variables here. Okay, and then getting the result and printing the result. Okay, so let's see, the result should be 3. So this is how you can pass the function as a parameters to another function. So this particular function is handy and it's an anonymous function. So to make it more easier, what you can do is you can implement this function and then pass it to one of the variable, and here you can directly pass the variable like this. Okay, and then you can call the calculate function. Okay, so this is function as a parameter. So now let's look into the other function anonymous, which is return function from function. So if you want to return a function from a function, then what you have to do is you have to write a function name, and then just after the round bracket just mention what type of function you're going to return out of this. So I'm going to return a function which takes a string as an argument and gonna return the string. Okay, since you have written that you are returning this type of function, you have to use the anonymous function directly, which will have first argument as a string and returning one string. Okay, so I'll just pass what I'm passing in the argument. Okay, got it? So this is your anonymous function. Okay, which is having the same signature as what you're gonna return it. So this is how you can pass the function from another function. So here what I'm gonna do is I'll write anonymous function dot get function. Okay, so I will get the function out of this particular method called get function, and I'm gonna call the function that I've got with one string dev problems. Okay, and this function which I've got it from this get function will return me again a string. So I'll write str and print the value. So I'll execute. It should give me the value as a dev problems. Yeah. So it is little tricky here. What you're doing is you're returning a function. Okay. Specified that what type of function you'll return. Okay. In the same way, you're using the anonymous function signature and returning the implementation of it. And then you are receiving that implementation into a function variable and calling that function implementation by passing a string, and then you are printing the string or getting the result out of it and printing it out. So it is little tricky, but you can get this well after doing a practice. And there is another function called stateful function. This function is little interesting, so let's go and implement this. So you will maintain a state inside a function which is gonna change every time if you are making a change into it. So let's see how it is. So here you will again return a function which will have no argument, but it will return us a int64 value out of it. Okay, so here I will initialize one a variable. Okay, and now I will write the logic of function that I'm going to return out of this function. So what I'm doing is I am incrementing the a value and returning the power of the int, the a value that I have. So I'm doing 2 raised to whatever the value that I get. So what I'm doing here is I'm returning a function of this type. Okay, but inside this function I have a variable a which will be incremented by 1 every time when I call this particular function. Okay, so now I'm gonna invoke the stateful function. I will write the anonymous package dot stateful function. So this function will give me one stateful function. Okay, so I'm saving into a SF variable. So I'm gonna call the stateful function with no arguments, as this function is accepting no argument, but it will give us the sorry, this function. It will not accept the argument, but it will give us the data of type int64. Okay, so the result will show you why it is a stateful function. So first let me create a variable. Okay, and I will get the int64 data in this res variable. Okay, so I'm gonna invoke the cell stateful function 3 times, and every time the result will be different because it's a stateful function. And why, I will show you. I'll just show you the result first. So it is 149. Okay, why it is 149? Because in the function you are incrementing the a every time when this function is invoked. Okay, so the first time you invoke, it's going to be 1. Okay, 0 plus 1 it's 1, and then 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 2 plus 1 is 3. So every time you are invoking, the a will be incrementing, and you will get the result different every time. Okay, so this is how you can maintain the state inside a function. Whenever it get invoked, it will give us the different results. Okay, so now let's look into the generic function. So I have created a generic function here. So first I will show you, this is a non-generic function, and this is also a non-generic function. Okay, why it is non-generic? Because here it has a map of type key as a string and value as a int64. Here it's a map of key string and float 64. So here you can only pass the specified map when you're calling the sum ints. Okay, here also this function you will call by passing the specific map type. Okay, but this is a generic function which will accept key which is of type comparable. Okay, and v, which is a value of type, it can be either int64 or float 64. So here, this is how you'll write the generic function. Okay, so this function can accept both ints and floats. Okay, that's why it is a generic function. Okay, so here you have to mention the key will be of type comparable. So string is already a type of comparable, so you have written this key can be of type comparable, and the v can be either int64, float 64, or you can again write one more, it can be of type string, anything. Okay, so this is a generic function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoke this particular sum or int function from here, main file, generic function, sum ints or float. Okay, here I have to provide a map. So I'll quickly create a map here, map of let's say type string and int. Okay, I'm gonna write a string as first, uh, let's say 12, second as let's say 14. Okay, so I'll pass the map here. Okay, it will give me a result, a sum of all the values. So it should give me like 12 plus 14, 26 in a result. Okay, so I'll quickly do println and print the result here. So here it is complaining about cannot use int. Okay, so here it's of type int64. So make sure the value is also int64. Okay, so if I execute, it should give me the result 26 here. Okay, and if I pass to the same function, if I pass the value as, let's say, float, is it accepting float 32? No, it is accepting float 64. So I will change the value. Okay, I will make this as decimal, and the same function is accepting a different type, which is float 64 as well. So it has given the result accordingly. Okay, hope you have understood all the functions. So do check out the code from the Git and start exploring the all the function that I have explained. And thank you so much, and make sure to subscribe the channel.
Hello friends, my name is Sarang. So today we'll learn about the object-oriented programming in Golang. So let's get started. So I have this topics which you need to know when you're going to start object-oriented programming in Golang. That is struct, interface, encapsulation, polymorphism, composition, and comparable. Make sure that you understand each and every concept, and then you'll be able to do the object-oriented programming in Golang. Okay, so let's get started. So now what I'm going to do is the first thing is I'm going to create go.mod file. To create that, we're going to run go mod init, and we have to give the name of the module, which is example.com slash dev problem slash go oops. Okay, so this will create the go.mod file, which will create the name of the module that we have just given, and also the version of Go that I'm running, okay, in the machine. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a main file. Okay, I'm gonna change the package to main because I want to make this main function as the entry point of the program. So the package and the function name should be same, main. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a person struct. Okay, so the struct is nothing but a user defined type which contain the collection of fields and methods. Okay, so you can relate the struct to the classes concept that we have it in another programming language like Java and Python. Okay, so I'm gonna create a field called first name and then last name and then age. Okay, so using this struct, I'm gonna create a person object. Okay, I'm gonna give the first name as Sarang and the last name as Mar and the age as, let's say, 23. So right now I'm gonna just print out the content of this object P, which holds data like first name, last name, and the age. Okay, now I'm gonna run the program, so you can see that it has printed out the content. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna also create a another object, person object, with the P name, P1, sorry. Okay, so I'll just change the first name. Okay, dev problems, and yeah, it will give the content of both the objects. Okay, so hope you understood like how to create struct, the syntax, and how we can add the fields inside it. We can add any types of field inside of a string, integer, boolean, anything. Okay, we can also write like a function inside this, let's say, which will return string. Okay, any type is possible inside the struct fields. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is the struct would also have the method specific to struct. So these are called receiver functions. So I'm going to create a function called walk. Okay, so I'm going to return one string saying that p dot name plus sorry, it's a first name, mhm, first name plus p dot last name likes walking. Okay, so I'm gonna add this, and here I'm gonna write the return type as string. Okay, so here I'm gonna call it using this object called p, and here I'm gonna write p dot walk, so it will give me the result as okay. So here it will also have, I have to get the string. Okay, so I'm gonna print out the result here. So it's like Sarang Kumar likes walking. Okay, so this is a receiver function which can only be invoked by the person object. So p is one of the person objects, and it's gonna be invoked by this object only. Even it can be be invoked using any person object. Okay, but you cannot simply invoke it like this. Okay, you need to create the object and then use a dot operator to invoke the function, which is specific to the person struct only. Okay, so hope you understood that how we can create struct inside, how we can create the fields, and how to create the receiver functions. These are called receiver functions. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, hang on for a second. Okay, so now let's understand about the encapsulation here. So basically here in the Golang, the encapsulation is done in a very different way. So here the encapsulation is done using package oriented method. Okay, so right now what I've done is I have created a field, and these are all public fields. Okay, these are all public fields. That means it can be accessed anywhere in the package. Okay, so if I make it to the private field, like making the first letter as a small case, okay, so it will become the private fields. Okay, so let me change these things. Okay, I'm gonna remove all these things. Okay, so I've changed that to a private field, but then too I'm able to give the values to the fields, and even I can access it using access it here. Okay, so if I change the first name, it will give me the updated first name, which is not a good practice, because here the user is getting freedom to access this first name, because here in the main function and the person struct are in the same package. Even though the fields are private, the main function can access the private fields. Okay, so this is not encapsulation. Encapsulation says that if a struct fields are private, then it cannot be accessed directly like this. Okay, it can be accessed using a getter function that we'll understand now. Okay, so let's create another package, and I'm gonna give the name of the another package as something like structs, and inside that I'm gonna create a person file. Okay, so I'm gonna transfer this person struct here. Okay, now they are private fields. Okay, so here I'm again gonna create an object. P is structs dot person. Okay, now if I'm trying to initialize the first name, it will give me an error saying that, let me hover over the first name. It is saying that unexported field first name usage. Okay, so this field right now is a private field. Okay, it cannot be used in any other package. Okay, it is private to this particular package only, which is struct. Okay, within the struct package you can access the private field. For an example, here you are able to access the private field, but in the another package, here you cannot able to access, because this is how the encapsulation is achieved in Golang. If you want to encapsulate some data, you have to move it from to the another package, and if you're trying to access it in another package, then you won't be able to access it, because uh, it says that it is unexported. If I just make it to a capital F, capital L, capital A, okay, change it here, making as a public field. So now it will allow me to assign values to the fields. So right now I can assign value without any errors. Okay, so this is how the encapsulation is achieved in the Golang. But a better way to assign value. Okay, so if I change it to a private field again. Okay, so since it is a private field right now, so I cannot assign it directly, or I cannot even access the first name right now because it is private. Okay, so how I can assign values to the first name, last name, and age? We can assign it using a setter function. Okay, so I'm gonna create one setter function. I'm gonna write set first name. Okay, I'm gonna write p dot first name equal to, I'll pass the first name here. Okay, and using this setter function, now I can able to assign the value to the first name. Okay, so I'm write structs dot person. I'm gonna create the empty struct because I cannot assign any values to the struct right now because they all the fields are private. So I'm gonna use the set first name. I'm gonna write as the first name as Sarang. Okay, now I'm gonna print out the content of the object P. Okay, so I will just try to run it. Okay, it has not given me the first name Sarang because here I have used a receiver function which is not a pointer based. Okay, so make sure you use the pointer based receiver function if you want to update the state of the object. So right now I'm updating the state of the object as a first name to the string that I'm providing here. Okay, so use the pointer based receiver function. Okay, so this is called pointer based receiver function. Okay, so here I'm gonna run the program and now it will give me the first name as Sarang. Okay, so here in the setter function you can also write a validation if the length of let's say f is lesser than 3, then we would like to raise a panic saying that just a second, invalid first name. Okay, so if you want to demo it, so if I just pass it a single string, so now it will give me an error in the console saying that invalid first name. Okay, you can also return the error if you don't want to panic. So if it's like this, then you can write return uh, errors dot new, and here you can say invalid first name, and at the end also you will return the nil. Okay, so here you can just get the error. Okay, and just write if error is not equal to nil, then you just have to print the content of that error saying that error dot error. Okay, now it will give me it will not panic, it will just print out the error message. Okay, so you can do both the ways. Here I have added the validation, so this is encapsulation. So using the setter function we are able to set the values of the fields that is present in the struct. Okay, and we will not able to access it directly, all the fields. Like if I do p dot, I'm not getting an option to access the fields directly. I can only set it using the setter function. Okay, so what if I want to get the value of the first name? Okay, so you can create a getter function, again p person. Okay, first name, so you have to return a string, just return p dot first name. Okay, make sure it's a pointer base to avoid memory unnecessary copying in the memory. Okay, so this is a getter function. Okay, getter function, and the best practice is to write the field name and the name of the function as the same. So here is a first name, here is also first name, so that in the Go, if any other programmer checking this method, he can understand it's a getter function. And if you want to write a setter function, just write set before the field name. Okay, so here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the first name, and I'm just gonna print out the first name. I'm gonna remove this. Okay, I'm able to access the first name. Okay, so there is, I have not set the, okay, since there is error, so it was not able to set the first name. I will just write the right string, and here it has given me first name as Sarang. So this is how you can access the private field, and this is how you can set the private field. Okay, set the value of private field. Okay, so we have achieved the encapsulation. So let's check it again. So if you want a struct, okay, and all its data to be encapsulated or private, okay, then you have to move it to another package, okay, and set those field values using a setter function, and get the values of those fields using a getter function. Okay, and in another package you have where you are creating the person struct, you have to invoke the setter function to set the private field values and get the private field value using getter functions. Okay, and make sure to add this round brackets after the func keyword to tell Go that this is a method first name specific to the person struct only. Okay, hope you understood about the struct here. So right now let's understand about we have covered encapsulation here, so let me cover it, write it here. So now we will cover interface, and using interface let's see how we can achieve the polymorphism in Golang. Okay, so before moving to the polymorphism, so I just missed one part, that you can also create a person object in different way. So here I'm gonna write a function new person. Okay, I'm gonna return the person object here. Okay, so how I'm gonna return is I'm gonna write the return keyword and create the person object. And now I want to initialize all the fields, so I will just write, I will accept the parameters as first name, last name, and age. Okay, these both are string and this is integer. So here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write first name fn, last name, and sorry, and here I'm gonna write a. Okay, and I have returned the person object. So this is how you can also create the person object. So previously we were creating like this. So the another way to create is create a function, okay, accept all the parameters which will help to initialize the private fields, and then create the object directly here and return it, so that the user will get that object directly. Okay, so this is called constructor. Okay, if you're coming from another language, you might be know what is constructor, but here in Golang there is no concept of constructor. You just have to create a normal function, and using that function just return the struct that you want to return. Okay, and here you can access the struct directly. So struct dot, you can write new person. Okay, so I'll write something like Sarang, and again Mar, age 23. Here I will directly get the person object here. I don't want to set any values. I'll directly get the uh, first name using a getter function. Okay, here if I change it to, let's say, dev problems, so now it will give me the dev problems. Okay, so right now what we have understood is there is a there is a constructor that you can create and treat one simple function as a constructor. There is no rule for constructor in Golang. There is no constructor in Golang. Okay, so create a normal function, return the struct, create the function, create the object inside that function, and return that struct itself. Okay, so since here in the setter function we can also set the values, in the constructor also we can set the values for that particular struct. Okay, if you want, if you're missing the validation here, just write the validation logic here. Okay, before setting the value, and if it fails, then panic, then panic. Okay, so this is how you can create objects also in Golang. Okay, so hope you understood about the constructor. Now let's go to the interface and polymorphism concept. Okay, now let's understand about the polymorphism. So for that, first let me create one directory with the name polymorphism. Okay, so here I'm gonna create a file with the name shape. Okay, so here first I'm gonna create a interface with the name shape. Okay, so this is how you create an interface in Golang. Okay, so if you're creating a struct, just write struct keyword here. If you're creating an interface, write the interface keyword over here. Okay, so the interface is same as the other programming language, where you just write the method signature, or you just declare the method, and all the other classes or struct can implement those interfaces. Okay, for an example, you can declare one function like render inside the interface, and the implementation will be done of this method will be done using a struct. So for an example, I'm going to create a struct circle. Okay, and I'm going to create a struct uh, square. Okay, now this to struct can implement this render function which is present in the shape interface. Okay, so now how we can implement we can make the struct circle to implement the method render. So what you need to do is we have to just create a function, and this function should be specific to the circle, as you know, receiver function, and you just have to write the function of the interface that you want to implement. Okay, so it is so easy that in the other programming languages we just have to something, write keyword like implements shape, something like this. But in the Golang we don't have to write any keyword to implement the functions of interfaces. You just have to create a receiver function specific to that struct, and write the name of that function the same as the interface function. Okay, so here I'm just gonna print out, as this function render function is having a contract or having a signature saying that it will not return anything, so we'll not return anything. So we'll just print out the something in console that circle is getting rendered. Okay, now if the square struct want to implement the render function, so what we need to do is we just have to change that receiver function to square, and that's it. Now the square struct is implementing the render function which is present in the interface name shape. Okay, so I will just change it to square here. Okay, so now so this is about the interfaces and how the struct can implement the interfaces. Okay, so now let's understand about the polymorphism. So let me go to the main file, and here I'm gonna declare a variable, let's say C, and the type of the variable C would be like so let me write polymorphism shape. Okay, so now I'm gonna create a object of circle. Okay, so it should be CLD. Okay, so see, as you can see on the left hand side, okay, I have the type as shape, and on the right hand side I have the type as circle. So circle is a struct and the shape is an interface. Okay, so I can also create the object of square here also. I'll just change it to S. Okay. So now see on the left hand side, the variables of type shape able to access or able to accept the struct circle and square. Why? Because this both struct is implementing the functions of interfaces. If for an example, if I just comment this out, okay, now it will give an error saying that cannot use circle because it's the type doesn't implement the polymorphism shape as the methods are missing. Now what this means is in the circle struct we are missing this interface method called render. That's why on the left hand side we have said that to the compiler saying that this should be of type shape, but the circle is not of type shape because we have not implemented the function render. So if I uncomment this, now we have implemented the function render. Now it will compile it properly. Okay, so it is just CNS is just saying that these variables are not used, so I will just change it to here. I'll just write it in a fmt package. Okay, so you just understood about the polymorphism now. So this shape can have more than one forms. So the shape is having a form of circle, the shape can be a form of square. Okay, so this is how you can achieve polymorphism in the Golang. Okay, so I think so it's very easy. In the Golang they have not given any keyword where we have to explicitly say that we have to implement some interfaces. Here you just have to create a receiver function of a particular type and just write the method that you want to implement of that particular shape or the interface. Okay, so if I just run this, so let me call the render function dot render. Now okay, so it is giving me cannot use render as that. Okay, so these are type void, so since it's not gonna return anything, so I'll just change it like this, and it will just say circle is getting rendered and the square is getting rendered here in the console. So as you know now that the achieving polymorphism in Golang is very easy as different languages. Okay, on the left hand side you can have the same interface, but on the right hand side you can write any struct you want until unless that struct is implementing all the functions of the particular interface. Okay, so this is how you can achieve polymorphism in Golang. So after this we will understand about the composition and comparable. Okay, so now let's understand about the composition. Okay, so I'll create a directory composition, and here inside composition directory I'm going to create a go file named car. Okay, so here I'm going to create three structs. One is engine and another one is wheel struct, and the last one is car struct. Okay, so in that inside this car struct I can embed the engine struct and also the wheel struct. Okay, so this is called composition. So having a struct inside another struct is called composition. That means you can also relate this to the real world example where the car has an engine and car also has the wheel. Okay, so in an object oriented way you can also think of and you can create struct in this way where you have separately created the struct and then you have added in the another struct which actually makes sense. Okay, so this is called a has a relationship. Okay, since car has engine and wheel, so this is called a has a relationship. In Golang there is no inheritance. Okay, there is no concept of inheritance in Golang. You cannot achieve inheritance in Go. So you can do something like composition here where you are embedding the struct inside another struct. Okay, so here I'm gonna write a few fields inside the engine struct called horsepower, and here I'm gonna write wheel dimensions of type int, and what I'm gonna do is here I'll give one car field name as car name. Okay, so now I'm gonna create the object of car, where I will accept the let's say car name of type string and horsepower, and wheel dimension of type int. I'll return the car object here. Now I'm gonna create here the car object where the car name will be car name, which I will receive in the parameters, and engine is gonna be, so I have to create a struct here because it's embedded inside the car. So horsepower will be here HP, and wheel is gonna be like this, where the wheel dimension is gonna be WD. Okay, let's go to the main file and create one of the object of car. Okay, C composition, new car, where the car name I will just give A, and horsepower I'll just give 600, and wheel dimension I'll just give 123. Here I'll just use the fmt package println function to print out the content of the car object. So here you can see that there is a outer curly braces. Inside the outer curly braces there are two inner curly braces, which says that this car struct has two embedded struct. One is of type engine, another one type of um, wheel. So okay, so this is how you can embed the struct inside another structs. Okay, so now let's do further more things. Let's create a getter function to get the horsepower. Okay, so there is a good way, there is another way to achieve composition, and that is also easier than this. Okay, it's just a syntax wise it is easy, concept is same. Okay, so I'll just write here engine. So I've just created a getter function uh, to get the horsepower, which is of type int. I'll just write e dot hp here. Okay, and I'll also write a getter function for wheel dimension. So I'll just write vw wheel, and here I will write wheel dimension, which will return int, and I'll just write w dot wheel dimension. Okay, so here I have written two getter functions. So if we want to get the wheel dimension here, okay, so since in the car you have embedded two struct. Okay, so now if you want to get the horsepower using the car object, okay, so how you can get here is, so here if you want to invoke the horsepower method, so you have to do something like c dot engine dot hp. Okay, and if you want to invoke the method of wheel dimension to get the wheel dimension of the particular car, so you just have to write this, and you will get the horsepower and wheel dimension in the console. Okay, but here there are only two struct, engine and wheel. But if understand that if there are so many structs, then in order to call the method you have to keep on calling the struct, and the dot operator you have to keep on adding it, and you have to drill down to that struct in order to get to that function. Okay, so if you don't want the user to don't want to drill down to that struct in order to call that particular function, and if you don't want the user to know that there is a engine and the wheel struct inside a car, then what you can do is the simpler syntax would be just remove this variable engine and wheel field from the car, and just change this to small e and this to small w. Okay, so now the syntax would be more easier. You just have to remove the engine. It's gonna be c dot hp and c dot wheel dimension. So now the hp and the wheel dimension now are part of the car object itself. We don't have to write like this engine dot hp. So it seems like if we write like this, it seems like we are exposing that to the user that there is a struct inside the car engine, and the engine has a horsepower. So if you don't want to do this, just write this simpler syntax, and this will also give us the same result, 600 and 123. Okay, so we have just made it very simple here. We just removed the variables, and now whatever the properties and the method the engine and the wheel has will be a part of car. Okay, so it's sort of like an inheritance, you can think of like that, but it's not a completely inheritance. Okay, So now what if both the function will have the same field name? For an example, let's say the engine would have a name. Okay, so I'll just write it small to make it private. So, and the wheel would also have the name. Okay, so now I'm gonna create a function quickly here saying I'll return the name, and this will return the name of the wheel. And here I'll also create a method for engine, which will return the name of the engine. Okay, so now here it should be a string, and also here it should be a string. Okay, so now if I just call from here, right? So here if I call the c dot name, so it is telling it is getting confused. It is telling ambiguous reference name because since the car and engine, sorry, the engine and wheel has the same method called name. Okay, the method of wheel is returning the wheel name, and the method of engine name is returning the engine name. Now the compiler is getting confused that which name it has to invoke actually. So in order to remove this confusion, what you can do rather is just create a function inside a car. Okay, and you can write something like engine name. Here just return string, and then you can return it like c dot, you can write as engine name. Okay, so here, no, it's not engine name, so here it should remove the c dot and invoke the engine one. Okay, so here it's also getting the ambiguous error. So here how we can get the engine function. So engine dot name. So this is how you can return the particular name of the field. So here, since the wheel and engine had a same function name, so the compiler was getting confused. So in order to remove the confusion, you just create a function for a car which will return the engine name, and inside that it will drill down to that struct and return that particular name of the function, name of the name engine, while calling this getter function name. And similarly you can also create a wheel name. Okay, so here you just change it to wheel dot name. Now if you can go to this, here you can easily get the engine name and also the wheel name. Okay, so here again we have not exposed the struct. Okay, so I have to initialize the names here, so I just have to get en. So I'll just write en wn. Okay, so name would be engine name, and here it should be wheel name. Okay, so I have to pass the parameter here, engine name. Let's say I'll just write b, and here I'll just write c. Okay, so engine name, wheel name. Oh, okay, I just have to write comma. Now it will give me the name correctly, b and c. Okay, so this is how you can hide the what do you say, the struct inside the another struct that you have embedded. Okay, and if both the struct have the embedded structs have the same method, like in this example I have given the name. Okay, this is same function. So what you can do is rather create a new function, okay, in the outer struct, that is a car, and just return out just return the or invoke the function which will return the correct data for you. Okay, hope that you have understood about the composition. If you have any doubts, you can write in the comment section. And now let's go to the comparable section, and this is a very easy one, so let me quickly show you. So if you can recall that we have created a person struct here. Okay, so the comparable means that how you can compare two structs. So I'm gonna quickly create two person struct. So here for time being, okay, this is struct dot person, and here I will use that new person method, which will take name as, let's say, Sarang, and I will write dev problems, age, let's say 12. Okay, I'll copy the same. I'll keep the content of both the objects same. P object has the same first name, last name as P1, the same age. So if we just compare this to struct, so using the equality operator, okay, so you can just print out here saying that uh, both both the structs are equal. So here the comparison of both the structs will be made based on their content. Now both the struct are of same type, person type, and both have the same content. The same field has the same names. So if we just execute this, it will just give the answer as both the structs are equal. Okay, and if I just change this value of the last name of P object, it will not give anything. Okay, we can also log this if you want. They are not equal. Not equal. Okay, so this is how you can compare two structs of the same type. Okay, so and now let's say if I go to the person, okay, and if I add one more let's say a field which is not a primitive, it's a slice. For example, I'll just write middle name. It is of type string, so it is of type string slice. Okay, now if I go to that okay, so I'll just have to add this mn, and this will be of type string slice, and middle name, just write mn. Okay, I'll go to the main file. Now I just have to pass, let's say, not like this, new string. I'll just write a, copy this, I'll just write a. Now before adding the middle name of type string slice, we are able to compare both the slice. But now since we have added the slice of type string, the compiler says that invalid operation, because uh, the struct can only be compared if you have primitive types, and if you have the types which have a dynamic memory like slice, map, okay, point, all these things. If you have this dynamic memory data structure in your struct, then you cannot compare it, and it's not a comparable. Since this slice and maps are not comparable, so you cannot compare the structs. And as soon as I remove this middle name, so we have seen that if I remove the middle name from the person also, okay, now it will be able to compile and it will give me the result. So make sure, like, while doing this, if you're comparing, you should only have the primitive data types inside the struct. And let's say if you want to compare using you have to compare the struct, but you should also have the dynamic memory data structures like slice. So what you can rather do is you can I'll just write again middle name of types, this one. I'll just write mn string, and here also I'll write middle name mn. Okay, so rather what you can do is just create one function of person, and this will check the equality. It will do the equality check, equals p1 person, and I'll just write this will return boolean saying that whether these two structs are equal or not. Okay, so if you have primitive data types, you can directly do using the equality operator. And if you don't have a primitive data structure, or if you have something a slice inside the struct and you want to compare, then create a new function called equals, and then you can compare your give out the comparison result over here. So I will just write length of, let's say, p dot middle name is equal to p1 dot middle name length. Okay, if both are equal, then just return true. Okay, else return false, or you can just directly return it here. Okay, so this is how you can create a new function where you are comparing both the struct of same type. And why you want to create, because inside this struct there are a few data structure which is not comparable. You cannot compare the string slice because it has a dynamic memory layout, so that's the reason. Now what you can do here is you just remove this and just write string slice here, just write middle name a and copy it here. Now if I call p dot equals, sorry, p dot equals p1, okay, I'll get the result back whether they are equal or not. So I'll just write if r, I'll write mm, both the structs are equal. Okay, so this is using equals function. So hope you understand about the comparable. Okay, so I have covered all the concept, and let me know if you have any doubts in the comment section. And yeah, it's for a new programmer, it will be little difficult to understand all these things, but if you know about the object oriented programming already, and if you're coming from background like Java, Python, then you would be very easy to understand the Golang object oriented programming. Okay, so let me know in the comments, and please subscribe to the channel so that I can keep posting such videos. And yeah, thank you.
Hello friends, my name is Sarang. So today we'll develop REST APIs using this Gin web framework, which is written in Golang, and it is 40 times faster than other frameworks. And if you need the performance and a good productivity, you will love Gin framework. So that is what written in the official GitHub page of this framework, and we'll be developing the REST APIs using same, and we'll also do CRUD operations using MongoDB. So by this video, you will understand how to develop REST APIs using Gin, and how to do a CRUD operation using MongoDB. Okay, so before you start looking into the video, you should be familiar with the basic concept of Golang. You should be familiar with the interfaces, struct, then slices. Okay, so if you're familiar with all this basic concept of Golang, then you can find this video easy, and you can also start building the REST APIs using this fastest framework. Okay, so before we start digging into the implementation of the REST API using Gin, so I would like to show you what we're gonna build. We're gonna build 5 APIs: one post, two get, one patch, and the delete. The post API will have the payload in this way: name, age, address, or simple user information, and we'll save it to the database. So I'll send, and this particular user information has been saved, and I can also get the particular user information using get request. I have to pass the name of the user, Sarang, and I will get the user information. I can also get or update the particular user information if I want to update the user information of Sarang. I will replace, or I will update the age with, let's say, 70. I'll be able to do that. See, success. and you can see that that information has been updated 70. Okay, and we can also get all the users. So since we have only one user now, so I will add one more user with the name dev problems. Okay, that user has also been added. So you can use get all API to get all the user information. So there are two Sarang user and one dev problems. So I will also able to delete the one of the users. So this is delete. Okay, you just have to pass the name of the user, and I'll be able to delete the user, and I'll do the get all. Now that dev problem user is deleted. So all these things will be doing using a gin and MongoDB. So let's get started. So I have the VS Code open. So I have a folder with the name go_yt, and we will be first creating a file go.mod file, which is the namespace of your project. So we'll write a command to create that file, which is go mod init, and I will give the name of the namespace as example.com sarang apis. Okay, so we have the file created. Has it has no dependency right now, so we'll add the gin dependency, since that framework will be used to create the REST API. So it is github.com gin gonic gin. Okay, so let's wait for it to fetch all the necessary thing, and we'll also add the Mongo driver. So because we're gonna create the REST APIs, we're also gonna create the CRUD operations. So the name would be go.mongodb.org/mongo driver. Okay, so now we have all the necessary dependency added. So we'll be creating our REST APIs using a typical MVC framework type. So we'll be creating directories like controllers, services, and models. So I've created this folders. Okay, and I'll create a main.go file which will have the main function and the package called main. Okay, so right now we'll not do anything here. First, we'll create our data object, which is a user. Okay, I will write the packages and models, same as the folder name. The package and the folder name should be same. And I will create a user struct, and this struct would have fields like name, age, and it will also have a reference to other struct, which is address. So I will create that as well, address struct, and this will have state, city, and pin code. Okay, now let's also create the alias or the JSON way representation of this particular field, which is name. And since we're also gonna deal with MongoDB, so the name would be username in the MongoDB. Okay, so I've written in the bson because Mongo supports bson, and I will write here age, and in the bson I will write user age. You can write anything you want here as per your standards, and here I will write address. Bson would be user address. Okay, and same goes for this thing for address struct. In the bson I will write state. Okay, sorry, I have to do it like this. Here it's gonna be city, and in the bson also will write as a city. Here I missed the colon, and for pin code we'll write the same thing, pin code. Okay, so this is the JSON way of this particular property. You can think this as an annotation, which is an alias for this particular field. Okay, um, so now we have created our data object. Now let's go to the service and create service files. Okay, I will write as user service dot go. So here I will create a interface which will help us to define the service contracts, okay, or API contracts. I will name it as a user service, and it is an interface. Okay, we have to implement the methods that we'll write and we'll be implementing using struct. But let's first define the API contracts, model.user, and it will return error. Okay, if there is error while saving in a MongoDB, will return that error. Okay, and get user will be one of the contract where we'll pass the username, and we will get the corresponding user in the response. Okay, and get all is means get all the user present in the MongoDB. So this is gonna be a slice which will contain user objects. Okay, and one more is update user. Here we will pass the data of the updated user object, and it will also return error if there is any while saving into MongoDB. And then we will create a delete API which will pass again the username, and we will return the error if there is any error. Okay, so these are the API contracts that we have, and we'll implement each functions, okay, using a struct. Now let's create the implementation class, service.impl.go. It is also in the service package, and let's it's gonna be a struct. Okay, so let's create that first. So type user service impl struct. Okay, and this struct will have the user collection object, which will be of type mongo.collection, and it's a pointer because we will get the object and we will point to that object. So that's the that's the way. Okay, and we will also have the context. I will explain you why we need this context later, but first let's first implement all of these functions that we have written in the interfaces, and this particular struct will implement all of this. So let's create a receiver function which will help us to create the function of type receiver, and the first method is create user, which will take user, and if there is an error, it will return the error. Let's not focus on the implementation now. We will come back to this. So for now, we'll return nil, and I'll create one more receiver function, u user service impl, and this will be a get user which will take the username and return the particular user object. For now we will just return nil nil. Okay, and let's create the rest of the function get all, and this will return the models user, return nil. Okay, now I think we are left with two other function, which is update user and delete user. So let's quickly write that as well. User service impl, so it is update user models user, and it will return error if while saving to Mongo, if we get any errors, we'll return that. Okay, and we are left with the last one, which is delete user. Okay, so here we'll receive the string, okay, which will hold the name of the user that we need to delete. Okay, so hang on with me, guys. Everything will make sense. We are just creating the structure of the project. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we have to also create the okay, there is some issue here. Wait just a second. What is this? Packet services in the go list. Found packet services and services in Golang packet expected services. Okay, so we have to match the folder name. That is what the error was, and that should be context. So let's start. Actually, there was a dependency issues. So what I've done is I have added the dependency again, and now it seems all the errors have gone, and now we are getting a warning here that this particular properties have been unused. So we have to initialize these properties, and how we're gonna do is we're gonna write a function which will act like an constructor, and for this we will pass the user collection of type mongo.collection, and we'll also pass the context object, and we'll return the interface user service. So we're gonna return the interface, but we will create the implemented class, which is user service impl. We'll pass the address, so user collection, and this would be context. So now I'm getting errors saying that get all type of method. Okay, the implementation of this particular contract had a get all with this, and we have a different return type. So it is saying that it is not uh, getting compatible with the methods that we have defined here. Now it is fine. Okay, the signature should be same. That is what it is telling. When we created this function, it was denying to create an object because all the functions signatures were different. Sorry, not all, only for the get all. Okay, so now we have created a kind of a structure for this particular user service IMPL. Now let's work on the controller side. So what I'm gonna do is I'll create a file user controller dot go, and this will be of package controllers. Okay, now the controller will also be a type of struct. So user controller struct, and this will hold the user service. I will make it as a public user service services dot user service. Okay, as you have noticed that in the controller we have the reference of user service, and in the user service we have the reference of Mongo collection. Okay, so we are injecting those objects. Okay, because this is what we do in the typical MVC uh, in a architecture that will create the folders and we'll keep on injecting the objects that we need. Okay, in different classes. So since the service layer is going to interact with the database layer, so it has a database object over there, and user controller will interact with service, so it will have the user service reference. Okay, so the constructor also would have the controller will also have it should also have a way to initialize the services. So we'll create a constructor user controller and we'll return the user controller with the past user service. Okay, we have the struct and the constructor. Okay, now we have to create the methods. So from the controller we will define the routes, and the routes will call these methods which is present in the service IMPL. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we'll copy all these methods and we'll paste it in a controller. Okay, so here there won't be any such return types in the controller way. Okay, the controller will not have such return type, so I'm removing this. Okay, what we're gonna pass here is a gin context. So I will write your ctx gin dot context. This is what we passed here, and this should be user controller. And I will write here UC. And for now, what I'm gonna do is I'll write JSON 200 and some nil or empty string for now. Okay, the context, this particular context object, gin.context will hold the information about the request that we're going to send, and the response will be sending using this method called JSON. So that's what we have done over here. So I will create that thing in the next. So just keep this thing for now, and I'll copy this context for every route functions. So this functions in the controller will be acting as a handler, or you can tell as a route functions for the routes that we will define in a moment. Okay, and copy these things, and this will be UC. Okay, so let's now define the routes. So for that, I will create a method, a receiver method. So let's create user controller register user routes. Okay, and we will group all the user routes. For that, what we're gonna do is we have to get the object of gin route group. Okay, I will explain you what we are doing here is we are just grouping all the user routes under a name called user. So we are writing a group, and this will be user. Okay, a kind of base path we are building it. So now let's write user route dot, let's write post. Okay, so when we hit this URL user create, okay, we're gonna call the create user function. Okay, and the create user function will get this gin.context object, and this object will hold all the request header data, and in the same object we have to return the response using this JSON method. Okay, in the same way we will write the other routes. Okay, so there will be two get. One is get all and another one is get user, correct? So for this I will write get slash name, because this is the parameters that I will send it in the URL mentioning the name of the user, and will get the particular user object. So this one get user, so I will change this to get user. Okay, and the other one is get all, where we'll get all the user information present in the database. So we will write get all, and here we have patch, which is an update user. So if we hit the endpoint with the update, so we'll write update user. Okay, and we'll also create one more, which is delete, and this will delete user. Okay, so these are the routes that we have created. Okay, so let's start writing the logic of interacting with the database first. Okay, because that is important, that how we're going to interact. So in the service, let's go to the service layer and let's create a user. Okay, let's see how we can create a user. So let's look at the function signature is we'll get the user in the request, and we'll add that directly into the MongoDB, correct? So let's write u dot we have a user collection object, and we have initialized that user collection in the constructor. Using that, we will perform one insert one that will pass the context ctx and the incoming user, and this insert one will return insert one result in error. So I'm not interested in the insert one result, so I will write underscore for that, and I will write error. Okay, I have created a variable with the name error. If there is an error, we are returning it. Okay, so this is the logic of inserting a user. Okay, in the controller, what we're gonna do is we'll call this particular user service uh, method of creating a user. So this is the one. Let's give me a second. So this particular gin.context, this particular variable ctx will hold the user information. So let's first create the let's first declare the user object, sorry, the user variable, and we will, whatever the user information that we get in the request, we'll add it in this particular variable. So let's write that. So context dot should bind JSON. Okay, it should be capital. Okay, and we'll pass the address of this particular variable, and what we're gonna do is uh, we will check if there is any error while binding. So I'll create one variable err. Okay, and this err, if it's not nil, what I'm gonna do is I will return a response in the same context object. I will send the status as a bad request. No, it's not bad, it's bad request, because we were not able to bind that, and the response would be uh, message string, and the value, it will be the error that we'll get while binding. Okay, and if we get this, we'll just return it. Okay, so whatever the user object that we get in a request, we are binding it into this particular variable, and if there is any error, the error object will not be nil, and we will pass on the bad request status, and we'll pass on the message. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is, if there is no error while binding, so we will call the user service create user method, and we'll pass the address of this particular user object. Okay, and If the error is not equal to nil, I will again do the same thing. Okay, now this time the status should be bad gateway because that's a that's a error while saving it in a MongoDB, so it should be a bad gateway. Okay, if everything works fine, if there is no such thing, okay, so we'll write HTTP status okay, and we will pass the message as success. So this would be success. Okay, so what are we doing is whenever we get a request for this particular endpoint create, we'll call the create user function with the context object, and this particular context will have the user object. We are binding it in user variable, or and if while binding, if there is any error, we'll send the bad request, and if there is no, we'll call the create user function, which is present in the user IMPL. And here we are interacting with Mongo and inserting the data of a user that we get in a request. And while doing that, if there is any error, the error ERR variable will be holding the error message and will return that. Okay, and if it's not nil, definitely we have to return the bad gateway status code and the message that this error variable holds. And if there is no error, we will send HTTP OK and the message success. Okay, so this was for the create user. Okay, now let's write for the get user. So let's go to the IMPL. Okay, now the get user will have the parameter name, which is dynamic. Okay, so first we have to get this particular name from the endpoint. So will get that. So how we're gonna do is var user. I'm declaring one variable, and here what I have to do is I have to pass the name here, correct? So in the controller, what I'm gonna do is I will write the username as ctx dot param name. Okay, and I will pass this. Is there any error object return? No. And what I'm gonna do is I'll write uc dot user service dot get user name. Okay, now let's complete the implementation of this. So now I'm the user IMPL. So here I have to write a query where we are querying based on the username that we get in a request. So we have to write a Mongo query, which is bson.d bson.e key should be name and value should be the name that we get. Okay, so there is this everything is perfect. So basically this line represents if you want to do such kind of Mongo query like db dot collections name dot find, okay, name something like type problems. If you want to do such kind of query, you have to write in this way. Okay, so you can also go into this thing and read the documentation that D is an order representation of the bson document and all these things. Okay, so now let's write a logic to get the user. So user collection dot find one, and here we'll pass the context and query, and then what we'll do is if we get the user, we will decode decode that and give it to this user variable. And while decoding, if there is any errors, we will return that error and user. So this is the logic of getting a particular user from the MongoDB. Okay, now let's go to the controller and finish that part. So here we will receive user error from the user service. And again, if there is any error, we will return this thing, bad gateway. If everything as expected, we will return the user. So there should be a user object. Okay, this is the get user. I hope you understand the implementation. And one thing that I missed out here is in every I have written context here, correct? In every Mongo interaction or Mongo API, I'm passing this context because this context is helpful if you want to perform the operation within a certain period of time. Let's say you want to find one user in just 5 to 10 seconds, and if this particular operation takes more than 10 seconds, then using this context object, you can cancel the operation and send a response saying that it took a lot of time. So using this context, uh, you can do a lot of things, setting the time, that how much time it should take for this particular option to complete. If it's not, you can cancel. You can use this thing in a production, but now we are not gonna initialize the context in a way that it should be used in a production. Okay, so I'll show you that when we are writing in a main file. Here right now we have just created the files and writing the logics, but we have not initialized the user service. As you can see, we have created a constructor, but we never created the object so of the user controller, but we'll do that in a main.go file once we complete the APIs here. So we have written for the get user and for create user. Let's write it for update user and delete user quickly, because they are pretty much same like create user. So for update user, when the user hits endpoints for update or delete, the particular method would be called. Okay, so what we're gonna do is first we have to, for update user, we are gonna pass the updated user information in the request. So first we have to get that thing. So what I'm gonna do is user models dot user. Okay, and I will copy the same thing. If there is an error while binding, we will return the bad request and return from this function. Okay, if there is no such thing, we will call the user service update method and pass the address of the user object. Okay, and if there is any error that we get from MongoDB, we will return that as a bad request or a bad gateway. Okay, if there is no such thing, what we're gonna return here is write http okay and return success. Okay, now let's go to the IMPL and implement same for the update users. So in the update, we have to first find the particular user and then update the particular user information. So first we'll write a filter query. So the filter would be like finding the user by the username. So that's what we will do. I think that we have already written here, correct? So let's copy this. Okay, here it's gonna be user dot name. Okay, so I think in the JSON we have written username, user age, address. Okay, so this should be user underscore name, and this should also be user underscore name. So we have written the filter thing. We'll filter the user by the name, and then if we found the user, we'll update it, correct? So for update, We'll write same thing, bson.d, bson.e, and here we'll write key as an set, setting the values, and the value should be bson.d, and here we'll update the values. So they're gonna be three bsons here. Since there are three fields in the user object, so we have to update those three fields here. So write like this. Okay, so the first one would be key. Key should be username, and value should be user dot name. Okay, and let's copy this and change only the required thing, username, and sorry, this should be for address. It should be user address, and this should be address. Okay, and this should be the user age, and just write age. Okay, so these two things we have to pass it in a update one function of user collection update one. So first we'll pass the context and filter update, and we'll get the result of the updated, and we're not interested to get the error because we'll find if there is any match count. That means we have updated the user. If it's not equal to, sorry, 1, then we'll return errors saying that no match document found for update. Okay, so this thing, and we'll return nil if there is no error. Okay, if this thing is, if the match count is greater than 1, okay, or equal to 1, okay, then we'll send no errors. That we have, that means we have updated the user. Okay, so I think the controller side also we have done for the update user. Yeah, so let's now do it for deleting the user. So the deleting user also would be same like get user, because we will get the parameter here. We have to change this to uh, name, correct? We have to get the name from the endpoint. So we'll write var uh, username ctx param, and it should be name, and u dot user service dot delete user. We'll send the address of the username, and we'll return error. If the error is not equal to not equal to null, we'll send the bad gateway, and we'll set the particular error information. If everything works as expected, we'll write http status okay, and giving the success message. Okay, and let's implement the IMPL side, user service side. Okay, here what we're gonna do is here again we have to write a filter logic, because we have to first find the particular user. So this should be name. Okay, and then we will find and delete that particular user. User collection dot delete one. This is the one. Here we'll pass context, comma the filter query. Okay, and again we will get the result. Okay, if result is same, we'll copy this thing. If there is no match count equal to 1, then we have not found the user to delete. Okay, I think pretty much done on this side. So we have implemented 4 queries for now. 4 APIs: create, get, update, and delete. The get all would be a little tricky. So, but let's implement that quickly. On the controller side, what are we expecting on the get all is we will we have to get all the users that are present in the MongoDB, correct? So on the controller side, we will get a list of users and errors. If there is any error, uc.userservice.getAll. If there is any error, we will send the bad gateway. Pretty much same. If there is no such thing, we'll send the users, and that should be the HTTP status. Okay. Okay. Here what are we getting? This is undefined, has no field or match count. Okay, so why is this? There is some VS Code issue as well, I guess. There should be okay, no, not sorry, my mistake. It should be deleted count. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the get all, and here we have to deal with cursor and all. It's because we have to deal with cursor because we have to get the users one by one from the database. So let's first create the slice object, which will be useful cursor error, and this would be user collection, user collection dot find. Okay, sorry, just a second. It should be find, and here I have to pass the context and write the logic to find all the user. So if we write just bsond, that means we need all the document that is present in the Mongo. Okay, for particular collection, if there is any error, if error is not equal to nil, return nil and error. Okay, if there is no search, then we have to iterate the cursor and use this next method and pass the context. Okay, and here var user models, it should be capital, and that should we are decoding it, that particular user, and saving it in this user variable. If while decoding, if there is any error, again same thing, and if there is no such errors, then we will append this particular user in the user slides. We have to pass the address because we are using the pointers, so we are saving the address of all the user. Okay, and after saving this, we have to also close the cursor. Okay, so for that we have to write if we get uh, error somewhere. Okay, error while iterating it. So this method will capture the error for this particular cursor while iterating. If there is any error, this particular variable will have the error information, and if the error is not equal to nil, then we have to return this thing. Okay, and if everything works fine, we will close the cursor by passing the context information. Okay, and if the length of the user slice is still equal to 0, after iterating, that means there is no information or there is no user in the database. So return nil errors dot new. We'll write documents not found because after iterating, if we still don't get any documentation and the length is 0, that means there are no documents in the Mongo. Okay, I think this was the toughest one, I guess, since we have cursor and all, but it's very easy if you see the code again and again. Okay, now we have completed the all the packages. Now the only thing left is to initialize everything and start the gin server. That would be again little tricky, but bear with me and you will understand everything. So first I will define all the required variables. So I would need a gin.engine variable because this the gin.engine is the consider this as a base or server for the gin framework. So I would require this. I will also require user service. So in all the other packages, I have just defined everything. Now I will initialize everything uh, in the main file controllers dot user controller. This is context, which is of type context dot context. This will be user collection, and this will be of type mongo dot collection, and I would also require mongo client and mongo dot client error of type error. Okay, so these are the variables that we have declared, and we'll initialize this in a init function. So context would be context dot to do. So we are not dealing with any timeouts. So the to do will create a simple context object with no cancellation thing inside, and we'll write connection mongo connection logic, which will get from the options dot uh, client dot apply URI MongoDB localhost. Oh, sorry, I think should be slice localhost 27017. Okay, and I will initialize the Mongo client error using mongo dot connect. We'll pass the context and Mongo connection. Okay, if there is any error, if error is not equal to nil, we will just close the application by passing the error in the console. If there is error while pinging the Mongo DB, so what we'll do is before we start any operation, we will ping the MongoDB and we'll check whether we're able to connect or not to the primary database, which is at 27017, not the read replica. This is the primary one, which will pass the admin command to find out whether we are able to connect to MongoDB or the MongoDB is up or not. And we will write one log to just check the Mongo connection has been established. Okay, now the other things we need to initialize is user connection, Mongo client. Okay, so this should be, sorry, this should be Mongo client uh, sorry, database. Uh, I don't know why is this thing is giving me this. Okay, it should be a database name should be user db dot collection should be users. User service should be services, new user service. User collection we have to pass, and we have to pass the context. And this should be user controller, which we have to initialize user controllers dot new. We have to pass the user service, and finally we'll initialize the uh, gin server, which will do it with the gin word default method. Okay, now this init, using init we have defined everything here, all the objects we have created in a init function. Now let's start the server in the main function, but before that we'll also defer. Means in the defer, what we're gonna do is we'll disconnect from Mongo if the application shutdowns. Okay, so this should be context, and we'll also add the base path, and this should be version 1. uh, I'll explain you in a minute what is this group. Okay, so user collection controller dot register user routes. We'll pass the base path, and then we will run the application at 9090. Okay, so what we have done is we have here return a defer keyword to disconnect if the application shutdowns, and from the Mongo will disconnect, and this is the base path v1. So we have to call like v1 slash user slash create. Okay, this is the base path v1, and the other parts is here user slash create user slash get. Okay, so I have grouped the user routes here using route group. Okay, and the v1 is the base one. Okay, hope you understood, and why I'm not able to import the options. Let me check. Option. Okay, this should be a client. I think now I'll be able to do this. Yeah, how it has imported. Okay, so now I think we are almost done, and now let's use the Thunder client to check whether we are able to run the application correctly or not. I have the MongoDB running. Okay, right now if I check, I don't have user DB. Here I have written user DB should be present, and in that I will use the users collection. Correct? This would be created when we call the API. Uh, Now first let's start the application, and we'll call the endpoints and start calling the doing the CRUD operations. Okay, this is my antivirus thing. Ignore this one. Started application at 9090. Let's see. Okay, it is listening on 9090. It has listed down all the routes like update user, get all, delete user. Okay, that seems good. Now let's create a new request. First, let's add the user. This should be localhost 9090 v1 user create. In the body, I'll pass that uh, request name should be, let's say, dev problems. Then we have age of type int, and then we have address. Let me also open the user. So that is what we are passing here, name, address, and address have state, city, and pin code. So this should be state. I'll write anything, let's say Gujarat, and city. Okay, this should be Ahmedabad. Okay, and also the last one is pin code. Okay, now let's call this one a page not found. Did we add the users or user? It's a user, right? Why do we have page not found? Oh, we have to post, sorry. So it is success. Now let's go to the MongoDB and check whether we created the database or not. Yeah, it is created. Use user DB, db dot users dot find. Okay, so information we got in a MongoDB. Now let's create a new request for get. Okay, here what we'll do is we'll copy this, paste it here, and this should be get. Here I will write the name of the user as a dev problems. We got the information. So two APIs are working fine. Now the third one is get all. So in the get all, we just have to pass this get all. Since we have only one user, we are receiving an array here, as you can see. Okay, so now we left with update and delete. Let's update our user, which is of type patch. I think this is a patch one, update one. We have written a patch. Okay, now this should be update. Update also requires a body. So let's copy this. I will change the age as let's say 60 something. Okay, we are able to succeed and we will able to update it. So let's check. Yeah, the age is 60 now, has been updated. Now the only thing left is delete. So before deleting, I will add one more user as Sarang, and that has been added. And let's delete one of the users since we have two users now, as you can see. Get all dev problems from Sarang. Let's delete one of them. This should be delete and copy this one. Delete. Here I have to pass name as dev problems. Okay. So we are able to delete this user, and let's use get all to see whether yeah dev problems has been deleted and only Sarang user left. Okay, that is cool. Now let's check the errors if we get or not. For get all, no, let's use for update. I will pass the wrong user. Now let's say dev problem is not present. I'm trying to update. We'll get error saying no match bad gateway and no match document found for update. Okay, we'll use it same for delete since we don't have dev problems to delete. We got no match document found for delete. Okay, this errors we have defined over here as you can see in the user IMPL. If we don't get matched, we will use sending this message as error. Okay, I think this is pretty much it. I think you got the idea how to create a REST API using Golang Jing web framework, and also we have done database operations, basic CRUD operations. I think this is pretty much it, and let me know if you have any doubts. It would be little very scary if you just see it at the first time, but if you just look at the code is very simple. We have created the folders according to the MVC structure. We have the controllers which holds the routes, and the service which interacts with the database and fetch all the user information. We have API contracts, and we have the all the initialization and everything done in the main.go file. I think this is all, and have a great day. And please subscribe to the channel and let me know what videos you need further. I'll try to create that one. And yeah, so thank you so much, and yeah, subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.